Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the Horror Master YouTube channel. Welcome back to day 27. We're now in the official 27 club, people. Let's get into the 27 club with Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison and Janis Joplin and Robert Johnson, all the likes. Let's get to the 27 club, people. But enough of the jokes. Yeah, I can't believe it. 27 days. Like I mentioned before, I am surprised on myself that this series has been gone this long. To be honest, I almost didn't think I was gonna go this far. I honestly thought I might just do maybe 10 videos and might call it quits, but no, actually been going strong for 27 fucking days. And like I said, we're still almost to the very end. So we're gonna go through this to the very fucking end. And I want to thank you guys so much for already surpassing 60 subscriber mark. By the time we record this video, I think we're currently at 64. Hell, by the time this video goes on, we might even surpass the 70 mark, which fingers crossed we're by that point. But if you have not yet subscribed, guys, please hit hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell for you won't miss any of my videos. But for episode 27, for day 27, we're gonna be tackling another franchise that a lot of people really surpass their heads or really don't pay attention or gets the love and respect it deserves. We're gonna be talking about excuse me, ooh, we're gonna be tackling the Re-Animator franchise. Yeah, a kind of a twist to the zombie genre of horror films, but take it to a different kind of way. I mean, the Re-Animator films, to be honest, this is one of those films that really doesn't really get talked about for obvious reasons that I do understand. Some people make some arguments, but overall, Re-Animator is one of the few horror films that I could be wrong, that try to be more funny and at the same time horror, kind of almost a predecessor. What was something like Lucia Bar Horrors and all that? Like I said, when you combine horror and comedy, you think it might not work, but most of the time it does work. And the Reanimator franchise is one of those franchises that, even though it wasn't comedy the entire fucking time, it was more serious than comedy. It had some comedy elements that even the horror aspect to it helped the franchise to be sometimes beloved, sometimes hated, to the point that I'm still shocked that they have yet to do a remake or retelling of the Reanimator franchise. I think there was a report out there that I read somewhere that they tried to do a Reanimator franchise, a new Reanimator film, but against plans kind of dissolve, no pun intended, on this franchise. So I'm wondering if down the road we might get a director or of the studio who owns the rights to Reanimator, which I don't know who the hell owns the rights for the studio, might go back and actually do a new telling of the Reanimator franchise, especially with technology nowadays. Even though I'm gonna mention some points that I think will be really outdated, but regardless, let's get into the rank 'em all. And this time, it might be the shortest rank 'em all we've done the entire series because the animated franchise only has 3 films. So, like I said before, this might be the shortest video of this entire series. So, bear with me, guys. I'm gonna try to had more an explanation. So, bear with me, guys. So, let's get into the rank 'em all. So, at number 3, we have The Bride of Reanimator. When I first saw this film, I mean, to be honest, I've never seen any of the Reanimator films besides the first one. But the other films, there were always movies that I didn't want to watch because I knew they kind of ruined my love for the original Reanimator film. But with Bride of Reanimator, this takes place 8 months after the events of the first one, and of course, West and Kada or Kane, I remember his the other doctor's name. They go to this country. I think it's in somewhere in South America during the Civil War around that time. That, of course, it's in the name. This is Bride of Reanimator. Kind of take a lot of the inspirations for the Bride of Frankenstein and pretty much create their own version of the Bride of Frankenstein. And this girl that I forgot her name as well. I forgot her name. I know I have it right here somewhere. I know I have it here somewhere, and her Gloria. I think it's Gloria, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Bride of Reanimator name is Gloria in the film. I could be wrong. Like I said, let me down in the comments. But regardless, um, like I said, 8 months after the first film, they tried to create this girlfriend or he's kind of savor in a way, but it's a weird film because, like I said, there's more comedy in this film, more than I think the film before and the film after this franchise. So some people might think that the comedy kind of kills the film. Again, no pun intended, but regardless, it's a great little film. Like I said, the Reanimator franchise is one of those franchises that, like I mentioned before, people really don't give a lot of respect about. Like I said, because it's a comedy. But I mean, if you're a comedy guy, if you're a horror guy, you might enjoy the Reanimator franchise. And with Brad and Reanimator, I keep wanting to say Brad and Frankenstein because it's always been stuck in my mind. Brad and Frankenstein. It's Brad and Reanimator, motherfucker. Brad and Reanimator is a great little film, an underrated film that a lot of people don't really get talk about, and you should probably go and watch. At number two, we have Beyond Re-Animator. This is the last film of the franchise, and again, it's amazing to me that this film was done in the late '90s, close to the 2000s, and there hasn't been any more Re-Animator films or other adaptations, which is shocking to me. Even though we have got so many adaptations from other franchises like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Child's Play, and so on and so forth. But again, Re-Animator is one of those that nobody has been able to touch or doesn't want to touch for ungodly reasons that we still don't know. But Beyond Rated is one of those films that is kind of crazy because of course now of course Wes is in prison and he still wants to experiment his theory and his experiments. He starts to experiment with a rat and then the rat guns loose and then the inmates start going crazy. He starts doing all this stuff back and forth. So again, Beyond Reanimator might be the craziest film, maybe be the craziest film in the entire franchise because it goes from one place that you think it might go, and then it goes a whole 360 and goes to a fucking different place that you're like, what the fuck? Why did I just happen out of fucking nowhere? But Beyond Reanimator, a movie that I actually enjoyed so much because again, late '90s, most of the '90s films, besides maybe the Scream franchise, were booming at the time. By that I mean first Scream film. And like I said, Beyond Reanimated was a movie that a lot of people kind of didn't kind of left out, didn't kind of started to watch it. Maybe because of time, it has begun to be more of appreciation of the franchise. And of course, it ages like a fine wine. In some films, kind of do that depending on your perspective and all that. But Beyond Reanimator, probably the craziest film in my opinion from the entire franchise. Like I said, just the whole fact that he's in prison and begins to experiment with a rat, and then the inmates starts to experiment with some inmates, and again, it's fucking crazy. It's a crazy film that's beyond words what I can describe it as. And of course, at number one, we gotta go with the original Reanimator, the movie that started off. And like I mentioned before, the first film is always the film that has the most critical look because if this film would have bombed, it would have been one film and done. Unfortunately, this film was able to create two other sequels, which mean it was a it was a major success. And at the time, that of course you're talking about the late '80s, of course, when we have at one side of the coin George R. Romero doing his Dead series with Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, so on and so forth. And Reanimator kind of takes that idea of the zombie, your typical traditional zombie, but kind of makes it, most of the time, makes the zombies actually look sort of human. Like, yeah, there were some moments that, of course, some of the people that he brought back to life were full on zombies, but in some other ways, the people he would bring back to life, they actually had conscience. They actually had a fucking brain, something to actually tell from right and wrong. Some people think it's an evil genius. Some people think it's weird. Some people think he's God. Maybe all of them are true because what Doctor was able to do in this film, it's something that a lot of scientists, a lot in today in the future are still trying to develop. If there's some way we can bring back, a dead person, which it will be a fucking mistake. We don't want to have a fucking zombie apocalypse in our hands. But the Reanimator film, it has been so influential in zombie films. I mean, has a lot of comedy, but the comedy again, it works in this franchise. Especially that scene one of the zombies kind of is scattered in blood and just fucking, and so you have to fucking scream at it. I mean, that visual alone, it's kind of odd to think that something like that in the 80s, maybe 70s, probably 80s, was able to work. And like I said, like I mentioned before, when you have already the zombie franchise, zombie, craving going in one side of the coin, and you have Re-Animator kind of taking a different perspective. So, I'm not saying it's the greatest horror film of all time. Probably one of them. I'm not saying the most influential. Maybe influential in terms of the zombie franchise in some perspective, because you can make an argument. But regardless, the first Reanimator is at my number one. And that's it for this video, guys. I hope you guys really enjoyed this prank. Like I said, probably the shortest video of this entire series. Like I said, I wish this franchise had maybe two to three more films. It would have been a much more better way of looking at this. But regardless, we have what we got. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video for episode number 28. We're gonna be tackling another weird and odd franchise that a lot of people really don't. I don't hear a lot of people talk about. And of course, I am talking about the Hatchet franchise. Oh yeah, we're gonna be hatching some heads up and down, left and right. So hope you guys really stay tuned for tomorrow's video. Like I mentioned before, to like, comment, subscribe. You have social bank. Don't forget to follow me on my Instagram. Don't forget to follow me on my Twitter. And like I said, guys, thank you guys so much for the reception, for all the things you've said to me about this franchise, this series that's been going on so much. Like I said, I didn't think it was gonna go this far. I honestly thought of quitting this series, but it's been in a hell of a ride, guys. And it's gonna be sad that we're almost to the very end, but we're gonna end with a bang. And like I said, guys, we still have a couple of days left for this series to end, but we're gonna end with a bang. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, stay metal.